Joe Flacco, speaking of another team from the AFC North, the Ravens. Once upon a time, their franchise quarterback. Once upon a time, the highest paid player in all of football. Actually, twice he held that mantle. He now is likely to start for the New York Jets on Sunday. Here's Robert Saleh talking about starting the veteran, the elite Joe Flacco.
Joe is just that veteran. One of the reasons why we went and got Joe is for the experience part of it, not only for the playing ability and but for the room, but also for situations just like this. Miami's got a dynamic coverage system as it pertains to defense with zero and all the different coverages they run, and Joe's kind of been there, done that, and just kind of a steadying experience that we felt would put us in the best position to win.
As our own Josh Alper pointed out today, and he is a Jets aficionado, maybe Rex Ryan is right. Because it was just the other day that Robert Saleh was saying Mike White doesn't deserve the treatment he's received. He goes from being heralded as the unlikely franchise quarterback supplanting Zach Wilson to being cast aside, and now Robert Saleh casts him aside for Joe Flacco, who, by the way, is unvaccinated,
yes.
which is a surprise, frankly. But that's part of the reality now. The Jets have a quarterback that they have to worry about a positive any given day, every given day. Although there are people who think Zach Wilson isn't vaccinated either. So maybe it will be Mike White. Maybe we saw it happen last week with Ben Roethlisberger. We saw it, even though he's vaccinated. We saw it the week before with Aaron Rodgers. Maybe it still will be Mike White. But for now, Joe Flacco, the guy for the Jets.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we were talking about Rex Ryan, I probably want to give at least a foot of distance between myself and anything that he says, at least to try to agree, or disagree. But yeah, I just don't get this coaching decision. I really don't. I don't. Because look, what is the point of starting Joe Flacco? What is the point? Really best chance to win like this? I don't know, man. Like, we've seen Joe Flacco. We saw him get supplanted in Baltimore by Lamar Jackson. We saw him last year play for the Jets against the Dolphins. As our own Josh Alper pointed out in his post, look, he was 21 of 44 for 186 yards with an interception. The Jets got shut out 20-0 against the Dolphins, right? Like, what more are we going to learn about the Jets if they have Joe Flacco in there instead of Mike White? Frankly, if it's me, I want to know if Mike White can be at least a backup quarterback in my system. And the only way I'm really going to figure that out is if I keep putting him out there, even if he has more 4-pick games. If that's the case, then, we know that we need to go out and do something else at backup QB. I just don't feel like there's anything more that you need to see from Joe Flacco, of all people, in a year that at this point should be all about evaluation for the New York Jets. I just don't get this. It makes no sense to me.
And you're right, because if Mike White is a guy that you value as part of your team, as the understudy to Zach Wilson moving forward, every rep he gets now makes him better prepared to play in the future if Zach Wilson is injured. And what it also does, it puts him in a better position to help Zach Wilson. The more experience he has in those moments, the more defenses he sees, the more adversity he encounters, the more credibility he's going to have when it's time to talk to Zach Wilson on the sideline during a rough game, and maybe give him that one little observation, that one little comment, that one little thing. I saw this, or I saw that, or I've seen it. It is immeasurable, the benefit it can have to Zach Wilson. And also, you do want to know how good your number two is, because you are likely going to need him at some point, and maybe you are going to want to find somebody else, or maybe you're going to be like the Steelers and know that your number two isn't good enough, but still keep Mason Rudolph around. Either way, you know plenty about who your backup is the more you play him. And in hindsight, it really is odd they traded for Joe Flacco. It's as simple as dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things, and the Jets continue to show over and over again that they are dysfunctional, and they are presumably at this point catering to the whims of the fan base and the back pages of the tabloids that are now trashing Mike White, and it may be a little more heat than Woody Johnson wants to take, and you never know which of these decisions originate from the top of the organization because they never come out and admit it, except when it makes them good to come out and take credit for it, like when Stephen Ross took credit for putting the kibosh on the Deshaun Watson trade. Other than that, we don't have anything to do with this. it may be that you've just still got leadership at the top of the organization. And at some point, folks, the common thread in any of these dysfunctional teams isn't the general manager or the head coach, because they change all the time. It's the power structure above them that is making it harder for those people to do their jobs. And that may be the easiest explanation here. Ownership is getting a little skittish. They're confused, and they're telling the front office and the coaching staff to do something that maybe isn't the right thing for them to do.
Well, as Joe Judge, the other New York team, said the other day, right? The fish stinks from the head down. Now, he meant it in terms of being a head coach, but like, he's not wrong, right? When you talk about these franchises and their dysfunction, it starts from ownership on down, and that's where the dysfunction starts, and that's how it starts to permeate everything in the organization. So yeah, I think we agree here, right? It doesn't necessarily make sense, that in retrospect, the Jets even traded for Joe Flacco, especially after we saw what Mike White can do if he's playing within himself and playing within the offensive scheme. Now, I'm not necessarily somebody who was like, oh my gosh, Mike White is so good, like, let's anoint him after what he did against the Cincinnati Bengals. But I really do wish we could have seen him play that full game against the Colts on Thursday night, because he came out kind of slinging it in that game. And I thought that what he did well against the Bengals was just take what was there. Right. He wasn't throwing it necessarily down the field, but what he was doing was taking what the defense gave him and just playing within the offensive scheme to the best of his ability. And then when he started going against the Colts, he started throwing it down the field a little bit more. That one drive that he played, I thought he played really, really well. So, obviously didn't show those kinds of things against the Bills where he's got 4 picks, right? And that makes you feel a little bit differently. But I don't know. I think that it makes more sense from an evaluation standpoint and a what are we building for the future standpoint to keep Mike White out there until Zach Wilson's healthy.
And the other side of this, before we put a pin in it for now, how healthy is Zach Wilson? Is he healthy enough to play? And they just
See, the Jared Goff thing you were doing before, I feel much more like that right now about Zach Wilson.
He's not 100%.
I don't know Zach Wilson, but but
he's not 100%. But he could play. But we decided that maybe, given where we are this year, we're better off letting him sit and learn and not get injured again and not make us look any dumber for taking Zach Wilson, although Sims continues to be a big believer in the guy. He's got that Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes quality where he can flick the wrist and get the ball 50 yards down the field, even though he looks like he ain't old enough to drive, which is very depressing. I don't know if that's an old man thing. I don't know if he would look 12 years old to me if I was 20. I'd like to think that he still would, but he just looks really young. He looks really young. He may end up being the greatest quarterback of all time when he turns 16. For now, though, it's going to take some time for Zach Wilson. He's like Doogie Howser of quarterbacks.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.